Have you ever played a game that felt like it was made just for you? Where everything from the gameplay down to the small details give you exactly the kind of good times that put the biggest smile on your face? For me, Cruis'n Blast by Raw Thrills is one of those games, where every second playing has been pure arcade racing bliss. The game's been so much fun that I just wanted to talk about it. So with introductions out of the way, this is Cruis'n Blast, a modern arcade joyride after my own heart. Cruis'n Blast is all about driving fast and tricked out cars on exciting tracks, as you boost, flip, and crash your way to the finish line. It doesn't ask much of you, only that you hit the gas like you mean it and enjoy the ride. Think of it as an arcade racer from the 90s, but made with all the bells and whistles of modern game design. Blast is a triumphant return to form for the Cruis'n series, and the culmination of years of arcade racing excellence by Raw Thrills, most notably through the line of Fast and Furious arcade titles. As I came to fall in love with Cruis'n Blast's initial arcade release back in 2017, I'd like to focus on what made the original great first, then move on to what the Nintendo Switch version from 2021 brings to the table. You're probably familiar with the Cruis'n Blast arcade game. Chances are you've seen a few cabinets in places like Dave & Buster's, Main Event, or Round 1, and I don't think I've ever seen the seats remain empty for too long. It's kind of hard to walk past this giant LED covered masterpiece and not want to play a few rounds. The gameplay and controls are on the simpler side. Just a gas pedal, steering wheel, a blast button for nitro boosts, and no brakes to slow you down. If you've played any of the Cruis'n games, you'll be familiar with tricks such as double tapping the gas to perform wheelies, which allow for flips over ramps in other cars. Drifting involves tapping the gas while turning, and it's not long before you're taking any curve with ease. The more actions you perform, such as maintaining drifts and gaining airtime, the more your blast gauge fills up, granting you a small speed boost when it's full. New to the bag of tricks is the ability to take down opponents by pushing them against walls, a welcome addition, as jumping over cars doesn't always get them out of your way in time. You also have a limited number of blasts, which give you a much more grandiose speed boost, accompanied by the announcer cheering you on, just to really make you feel good every time you hit that button.
Hold on!
Winning races will always come down to pulling ahead in the last few seconds, meaning you want to save your button boost for the end, and instead rely on filling the blast gauge often and taking good racing lanes as opponents relentlessly catch up with you. Those final moments are especially heated when playing in linked cabinet multiplayer, which supports up to 4 players, amping up the craziness that's happening on screen, and everyone often finishing within milliseconds of each other. There's nothing quite like getting to share the fun of a good arcade game with someone else. While there are only 5 tracks in the arcade version, taking place across caricatures of real-world locations and lasting about 2 minutes each, Cruis'n Blast seeks to make those precious seconds some of the craziest you've ever spent behind the wheel. Each track feels like a thrill ride jam-packed with vivid colors, scenery flying everywhere, huge jumps, and bombastic set pieces. There are plenty of moments where it seems like hazards just barely miss you, but you'll never actually run into them, as they're scripted events to give off the illusion of danger. That being said, like a thrill ride, I still enjoy the spectacle even if I know how the magic works. I mentioned that the final stretch of each race is always exciting, but the best part is the finish line itself, which isn't just some checkered flag or painted line, but a giant digital glass window that you break through, just begging you to be the first one to do so. And what's a good racing game without something cool to drive? Cruis'n Blast has you covered with a variety of licensed sports cars, including my dream machine, a Corvette C7 Z06 convertible, to a few Lamborghinis, a Nissan, a Hummer, and an extra set of non-traditional cars that include a double-decker bus, a helicopter, and a Triceratops that makes car sounds. But before you hit the road, why not give your ride a little something extra? Each car also includes customization upgrades for the paint job, engine, and body kits, plus additional blast button boosts. The upgrades can be rather garish, but I like them. They turn each car into something that will look great as a Hot Wheels diecast. Accompanying this visual feast for the eyes are music, sound effects, and an announcer befitting of the short burst of high-speed fun, literally blasted through the cabinet speakers. It's also the kind of sound you can feel, as the entire cabinet rumbles like it's powered by a nitro-fueled engine. And you can't forget about that catchy theme song. It's the kind of cheesy that fits the 90s made modern idea perfectly. The seamless mix of simple yet entertaining gameplay, crazy tracks, loud visuals and sounds, and over-exaggerated sense of style are what I love so much about Cruis'n Blast. While every opportunity I've had to play on a machine would make my day, I couldn't help but wish there was a more convenient way to play more often. While I appreciate that a blast from the past ratio like this can do well in this new era of arcade gaming, I'm also a console gamer who grew up accustomed to popular arcade titles getting home console ports, like the Cruis'n trilogy on the Nintendo 64. It also didn't help that Blast came out in 2017, the same year the Nintendo Switch launched. Just thinking about having such fun times around to play whenever felt like a dream, and for years, that's all those thoughts were. That is until Nintendo's E3 2021 Direct, when I finally got the announcement I'd been hoping for. And on September 14th later that year, the wait was finally over. The Cruis'n series made its return to Nintendo consoles with a dose of pure arcade racing goodness.
Cruis'n Blast!
Welcome to London. Ready, set, go!
The Switch version of Cruis'n Blast is in many ways like the Nintendo 64 ports of Cruis'n USA, Worlds, and Exotica, specifically when it comes to its balance of visual quality and content quantity. While Blast came with its share of compromises to function on weaker hardware, there were also enhancements to better fit longer play sessions and be arguably superior to the arcade release. The simple control scheme and easy to play, fun to master gameplay are still intact, with all the tricks based around tapping the gas and steering working the same. A brake button was also added should you need it. The most obvious difference is the downgrade in graphics, with most of the original game's hyper-saturated art direction, models, and UI intact, but lacking some of the higher quality flair in terms of lighting, reflections, shadows, particle effects, and destructible scenery. While it's not as much of a looker as its arcade counterpart, much can be forgiven since the game didn't compromise on the performance during single-player races, as the game runs at a 1080p resolution and mostly stable 60 frames per second in docked mode, a feat that very few racing games on the Switch have pulled off, with the occasional frame drops being short and never to the point of ruining the sense of speed. I think with more time in the oven, a better balance between visuals and performance could have been achieved, but there's still a bunch of bright colors flying all over the place at high speeds, so not all of the eye candy is gone. The Switch version's content editions are where things get a lot more interesting. All 5 tracks from the arcade game are playable as single races, but they aren't one-to-one ports of the originals. The track layouts are the same, but some change up the time of day or background music. Additionally, scattered across each track are additional boost pads and ramps, allowing for more opportunities to gain speed and pull off tricks. Hidden within breakable scenery and off the beaten path areas are keys and cash, which are necessary for unlocking upgrades and new cars, and increases the replay value of each track. The digital glass finish line also got replaced with a simpler, less exciting design in my opinion. These changes give the ported tracks a bit of a different vibe when compared to their arcade counterparts. What's even more interesting is that in addition to the 5 aforementioned tracks, all 4 tracks from another Rothro's arcade game, Superbikes 3, have also been ported over. In fact, the extra ramps and finish line design from this game were applied to Blast arcade tracks, most likely to give every track a sense of consistency. But it isn't just these 9 tracks that you'll be playing repeatedly, at least not entirely. New tracks were created by combining the 9 track environments with level themes, ranging from getting chased by police cars to dinosaur invasions, bringing the total number of tracks to 29. That number comes with an asterisk though, as track layouts are repeated multiple times, and the themes are mostly for looks rather than directly altering your race, so your mileage may vary on how quickly things will start to get too repetitive. However, I kind of expect to be playing the same levels over and over again in what's still an arcade game at its core, so to me, any variety is appreciated. The car selection also has its share of changes. As can be the case with games using licensed material, cuts and replacements tend to happen as rights expire. Some cars, like the commemorative vintage Corvettes, are from later revisions of the arcade game. Others were replaced with more recent models, like my beloved Corvette C7 getting swapped out for the C8 Stingray, and all but one of the Lamborghinis are gone. A similar situation occurred with the extra cars, but there were plenty of new fantastical choices to compensate, like a monster truck, a school bus, a UFO, and a shark that also makes car sounds. Every car can still be upgraded, with neon lighting as a new option, but through an experience point system, where more upgrades become available as you finish races. As for game modes, the usual suspects are all here. The 2 main attractions are Cruis'n Arcade, which lets you play the original 5 arcade tracks, and Cruis'n Tour, where you race in 6 themed championships of 4 races each. The tour tracks are also playable in single races, time trials, and local multiplayer. Because each car gains experience from races until it's maxed out, tours are a great way to grind without making things too monotonous. Single races and time trials are useful for finding those last few well-hidden keys, a task that may also require the brake button to get a better look at your surroundings. Every tour track can be played on 4 difficulty levels, which adjust the AI's speed and car upgrades. The AI rubber banding on the first 3 difficulties is rather tame. Opponents will often let you pass them well before the finish line, with some exceptions. Extreme difficulty is an entirely different beast, where the races feel most like its arcade counterpart, meaning saving boost for the end is crucial. Local multiplayer comes in 2 varieties, 4 players on one console, or 4 consoles linked together via local wireless. However, there is one glaring omission: no online multiplayer. I really hope this option gets added as part of an update in the near future, because a game this fun deserves to be shared with people beyond those who are physically next to you. While the Switch version of Cruis'n Blast may not be an arcade-perfect port, its adjustments offer a different take on the game while keeping its soul intact, and is still an honest-to-goodness arcade racer that's fast and fun. And the arcade version doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon, so in my mind, now there's 2 ways out there to enjoy some over-the-top, raw thrills racing action. There's a lot of great racing games out there, but the wacky brand of fun Cruis'n Blast delivers is one of a kind, and is easily one of the best racers I've ever played, both on a cabinet and on the couch. And it's because I love this game that much, I not only got inspired to make a video about it, but I also want to make more videos about other cool racing games that I've come to love. So I hope you'll check out what I've got in store for next time, and thank you for watching. It's been a blast.